So welcome everyone. I think probably people recognize my voice, if not that, certainly my face, but I'm told I've got a pretty recognizable voice. At any rate, welcome. This is June already, the June Directors Webinar. We'll wait here just a minute to let people join us before we get started. Let's see, we have a couple of AI note takers, and I might as well just voice it. I generally kick out AI note takers because in our webinars, we like to encourage engagement and really encourage people attending, engaging by taking themselves off Zoom, and not just kind of sit in the background and wait for the AI notes to get to them. That said, I'm not against AI necessarily. There's certainly problems with it. So it's not that I'm anti-technology. It's more that since we rely on so much technology, I also like to garner uh, the personal interaction as well. So, Brittany Salmon, I'm sorry, but I'm declining your AI note taker right now.
All right, guys.
Then
Oh, sorry. Go
let's
ahead.
see. I'm going to go ahead and start the recording and give the microphone over to you, Jennifer.
Okay. Great question for today. We will be learning in our July. Can you believe next month is July? That's so crazy. We in our July webinar, we are going to be learning more about data visualization. So how you take your data and you make it really interesting to other people so that they want to look at it, they understand it, and then they understand your work and its impact better. So taking your data, visualizing it, doing other things to it, making it speak for you. And we're also going to talk about how you can use AI to assist you with that and to assist with your dissemination, your communications, how you reach people, and how you can use it to make those communications accessible, right? So that people can, if they are blind, if they are whatever it happens to be that they need support in accessing it, AI can help you with that too, it turns out. So, related to next month's topics or topic, if you see it as one larger, how are you currently using AI in your life? How is it helping you? So that's the introductory question. Go ahead and put it in the chat. And John, I know you were excited to answer this question, so do you want to tell us?
Oh boy, I use AI in a lot of ways, but I think probably the most impactful in my life is I use it to kind of explore my own curiosity and to learn. And so I'll take ideas that I have, take it to learn more, to dive into topics. And I don't necessarily use it like carte blanche, what comes back,
Mm-hmm.
but I use it as a sounding board, the same way as I would with any conversation with any one of you is like integrate what comes back into my thinking and probe deeper and see how I'm going to integrate it and internalize it moving forward. So, in a
Mm-hmm.
nutshell, satisfy my curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Amanda, you're already going beyond what I could do for sure. Um, at first, I was like, "Oh, Becky uses it to finish her lunch." That doesn't make sense. Okay, got it. A baby shower game, nice. Research topics and text faster because I don't like text. Okay, good. Love putting in ingredients. That's yes, yeah, yeah. Especially as someone who can't eat gluten or dairy, I can think of something I want to make and it'll find me a good recipe. That will, yep. Conference proposals, nice. Prepare my meetings, nice. Um, alt text suggestions, accessibility of a graph. Great. That is, Sandra, that is gold star stuff since it's really connected with what we're going to talk about in July. Great. Oh, so many good ideas. And someone mentioned Notebook LLM. And one neat thing Notebook LLM can do for you, it's like neat and maybe creepy at the same time, is it will take your research article and turn it into a mini podcast episode with two people talking about your research article. So it's really good. And it's a little creepy because those aren't real people. Um, yeah, you're great. Um, yeah, they do. They sound so real. which makes you wonder why commercials can't use AI better. Like, why do we have so many weird AI commercials where my son's just like AI, AI, AI. Um, all right. I think I've told some of you before, I use it to help me with titling things like a webinar presentation or a conference presentation or whatever it is. I can never come up with interesting titles, and it is so good. All right, everybody. So AI will be next month, but I just wanted to get you thinking and ready for that. When you meet our presenters today, they're each going to tell you how they use AI as well. So here we are again. Oh, and I forgot to change that first slide. So now I'm going to show it. All right. So today I've got a question for you beyond the AI question and an example. And talk about new and noteworthy. Actually, you know what? I think it was the AI question, but the Colorado example. Okay. Anyways, changed my agenda at the last minute. I forgot. New and noteworthy. We're going to cap off our family partnerships series. Then we will be talking about the dissemination workbook and the engaging critical perspectives framework. So these are two different things. And we have our friends from Indiana, specifically Lucy, will be talking about. She looked across them, the dissemination workbook you've all put together, the engaging critical perspectives framework from CSEP that Rebecca Warnock presented a few months ago. She looked across them to see what was the same and what was different. So she basically did a crosswalk, and she's going to share that with you. So that's continuing our dissemination workbook conversations or dissemination. And then Alexa Hudak from the Oklahoma team is going to talk about MTSS at the state level and how they've worked across offices to work together and align things in their state. And she's also going to talk about a completely separate topic, which is when you have a conference, how do you connect that with your ongoing professional learning? Right. So it's not even though the topics are something you're continuing on, how do you directly take what's happening there and connect it with what's happening at the districts and schools programs? So this is a related AI question for next month. What do you want to know about AI and dissemination specifically? So this is our presenter, Lisa Deeker, who is part of CIDL. Please don't ask me to remember what CIDL stands for, but they help states and universities using digital materials. So digital design, that's probably the DD. But what do you want to know about how AI can help you with dissemination and make it more accessible? Please go ahead and put that in the chat, and then I'll present it to Lisa Deeker so that she can respond with her presentation information. So I'll go ahead and give you a couple minutes to do that. Wow. Oh, thank you, John, for putting CIDL on. So is everyone still thinking? Should I move on? Give me feedback. Okay, good. Maybe region specific to a targeted audience. Good. Actually generating text to use. Good prompts. Okay, great. So keep on thinking about this. You can email me with your questions and ideas, and I will send those to Lisa up until July 9th, which we switched from that first Thursday because it's right after or before.
Right before, I
Right
think,
before.
July 4th.
Yeah, so we changed it July 9th, same time though. And that's when Lisa Deeker will be presenting. And we'll also have someone from IDC, which is the IDEA Data Center, and someone from the Arkansas SPDIG, specifically in a district, who worked with IDC on data visualization. Thank you, everyone. New and noteworthy. So OSEP conference and the SPDIG national meeting. The OSEP conference, we are going to have meetups for evaluators, folks who are new to the SPDIG, folks who want to discuss sustainability, and GrantWise, which is about internal processes and budgeting in your grant. So we'll see where they end up scheduling us, but I did ask for morning sessions. I figured you wanted your lunch to go do other things and probably also want to do other things at the end of the day, including bowling with us, big bowling night the first night. We're also going to have the program area meeting and we are going to have design labs. And this was created by our planning committee. And the design labs will be implementation questions that SPDIGs have. And it'll describe the situation to you. And you're going to have three choices about what they should do and with that implementation challenge. And then you're going to hear what the research says about the next right steps. For the SPDIG National Meeting, the theme is going to be something along the lines of doing what we do even better. So we're not adding anything on, but we're doing all these things, and here's how we can make it even more effective, efficient, have an impact. October 14th and 15th, the location is the same place as last year, the Friends Meeting in DuPont Circle. Please reserve your own hotel room, and who should come from the SPDIGs? Anyone who would like to, who is doing your SPDIG work with you. But please do try to bring your family partners. Please try to bring your IHE partners. I know the evaluators are always important folks to bring and partners as well. And also anyone from districts who you think would be would benefit from the material. So we've been talking about dissemination and complex change in our series. And complex change has been related to the family partnerships. And so the dissemination workbook, this is what we considered last time about your primary audiences, to Scott's question, I think it was Scott, dissemination channels you're using and how you'll know if you're reaching your primary audience. So these are big questions that, will always be present, something to think about with AI and generally learning from others. And then these are the steps to success from the dissemination workbook. This is the complex change model, the Nostra model we've been looking at when we're thinking about these family partnerships. And when one piece is missing, then you see on the right-hand side what you get from that. And then these are the specific questions about your SPDIG partnership with the family partners. How have you built the relationship over time? How do you measure success in your partnership? How do you support each other's dissemination? And which areas of the model for complex change are strengths for the partnership and which areas are tougher? So I think these are good conversations. If you haven't already had them with your family partners, please consider doing so. These are going to be our speakers today, as promised. First Indiana SPDIG, and then Oklahoma SPDIG. And of course, if you have questions, this is where you go. So now I'm going to get into a topic that we had a request from those folks who are new to the SPDIG. There's a community of practice that Alexa Hudak and John have been facilitating. And the question came, and what exactly was the question? Could you remind me, John?
Sure. The question, the way I heard it at any rate, was aligning priorities across the SPDIGs and the parent centers. That is, the parent centers are in a position that they certainly need funding, just like anybody does.
Yes.
But they've got their own kind of underlying background initiatives that they're working towards, and the SPDIGs needing them to integrate SPDIG outcomes, SPDIG initiatives related to the funding that they're providing the parent centers.
Got it. All right. So let's see if I just had the same thing happen that happened to Lucy. So let's see if we can figure this out. Okay. What do you see, John? You see the presentation, right?
Perfect.
Okay. We'll see if I can make it move now. Right. So this is a presentation I gave the other day to my, to the Region B parent training and information centers and their technical assistance center. So it's a southern region. Couldn't tell you all the states are in it. I know Virginia was in it. They had questions about the SPDIG, so I put these together. And when I received that question from the new to SPDIG, I thought, it would be good for us all to go over this again. Of course, I'm going to be doing it the fast way because it's an add-on to our webinar, but stop me with questions. So what are the parent center requirements? I think is a really good place to start. When you wrote your application, what you responded to is the same thing that's in the current notice. It's from IDEA, so it doesn't change. That said, if you're going to be writing an application in the coming years, that means you need to do the same thing. So this will be true until IDEA is rewritten, reauthorized. So required contracts and subgrants. This is what is required for a grant, for an applicant and then a grant. So you must award a contract or a subgrant to at least one LEA, at least one IHE, and either the Parent Training and Information Center or the Community Parent Resource Center. Where it says as appropriate, and this is something we worked with our program attorney on, we have gone over this question before because people have raised it. Does it mean like, oh, if it's appropriate to work with the PTI or the CPRC? It does not. It means if you have a community parent resource center in your state, which not every state does, you could choose to work with the CPRC instead of the PTI. You could work with both, but you have to work with one or the other. If you only have a PTI, you're going to work with that PTI. Does anyone have any questions about that? Now, it says review the ANI together. That is the application notice and instructions. We won't do that because we don't have time. I did do it with the others. Was someone going to ask a question? No. Okay. So when you were writing your application, and I provided the informational webinar, I shared a couple of things. The OSEP expectations for family engagement, and that does talk about collaborating with family partners. And I also recommended that you collaborate with your family partners in writing your application, specifically looking at what the strengths are of the PTI and or CPRC, and how they could help support you in reaching your objectives and how you would measure success. And we talk about meaningful engagement. There needs to be enough money going toward it that it shows that this is a meaningful partnership, just like it would be with anything else. Once you get your grant, the way that we support this work is through the Family Partners Community of Practice, which Kelly Henderson facilitates and I support. The director's webinar presentations that we have about family partners, the SPDIG National Meeting, we've had this topic before multiple times. And we expect you to have at least one strong family engagement performance measure or a strong measure with your family partner if it's about something other than just family engagement. So that's what we expect with the carrying out of the project and how we support you. So we've seen some great wins. This is a list of them, of when there's a really good partnership going on. I love to see strong family instruments that measure family engagement, strong performance measures, the family math nights, implementation teams that have parents on the implementation teams at the district and school level, deeper family understanding how to support their child academically, and the state systems that bring together multiple family engagement partners. We had a presentation from Colorado months ago. There's someone who works in the Colorado SEA who focuses on this, and it's been a really strong part of their project. Those are wins. Challenges is we as project officers and OSEP only know what we're told. So if things are not going well and no one tells us, we wouldn't necessarily be aware of it, right? And therefore we can't help. Contracting and subgrant barriers in the SEA, sometimes we hear about, well, we're not allowed to give them another, and we have to figure that out. It's a requirement of the grant. SEA is misunderstanding how PTIs function and are funded. They receive very little funding, and they're not funded to help the SPDIG or to help the SEA. That's not part of their grant. And so any work that they do with you, whether it's thinking, talking, doing things on the ground, they should be paid for it, just like you'd expect to be paid for it yourself. Reported lack of capacity for the PTI and PTI turnover. Again, this is something that you bring to OSEP and we discuss. PTIs are also OSEP centers. So we know the project officers, we talk, we figure things out, and we support. They also have technical assistance providers that they can help them. But if you report a lack of capacity, it needs to be very clear that you've shared your contracting expectations with them and you've worked together to create that. There's no reason it shouldn't have been a conversation before. Everything should be very clear. And we would love to have your detailed examples of the impact your partnership has made. We would love to focus on those. So I'm going to stop sharing. I've gone a
Jennifer,
little bit over my time. Go
there
ahead,
was a
John.
question in the chat, and I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that I'm okay sharing this presentation on the event website.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Then you all will get a follow-up email either today or tomorrow or Monday, depends how long it takes for me to process the information. But it'll include a link to the event webpage on SIG Network where you can find this presentation as well as the recording and the other presentations forthcoming.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. And any other questions, just go ahead and add to the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Lucy Fishman, who is part of the new Indiana SPDIG grant and did the work that we should have probably done of looking at the dissemination workbook and the engaging critical perspectives framework and seeing, doing a crosswalk and seeing what's the same, what's different, and what you can learn from that. So Lucy's going to tell you how she uses AI and then get right into it. Thank you, Lucy.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me today. That is a great kickoff question for this because I actually use Notebook LM. I put the dissemination workbook and the engaging critical perspectives tool in Notebook LM, and I asked a series of prompts, where are they similar, where are they different, and that's what started me down this path of developing this crosswalk. So what came out of the first round of prompts, there was some muddiness. It was a little bit of a mess, but it definitely gave me a place to start. So I appreciated it for that. Otherwise, I really wasn't quite sure how I would get started. All right. And so let me share, everybody. Wish me luck because we just never know if this will work. Okay, let me switch display. Oh, no, it's doing that same thing. Let me try one other piece. Let's try this one. Oh, okay, I think
That looks perfect, Lucy.
okay. Okay, let me go back. All right, so yes, we're going to talk about the dissemination workbook and engaging critical perspectives. It's an analysis, it's a crosswalk, it's what you've been waiting for. But first, let's do a little rose, thorn, bud just to connect for a minute here. The rose would be the highlight of your week, and you can put this in the chat. The thorn is a challenge you're facing this week, and then the bud is something you're looking forward to this summer. So this is the summer edition of the rose, thorn, and bud. And I'll keep an eye on the chat, maybe call on one or two of you to come off mic.
Well, while people are thinking and typing, Lucy, I'll jump in and fill the airwaves. My rose is that I met with an old colleague who I probably hadn't seen for 8 years, and it was totally fortuitous and relative to a thorn that I've got, and the thorn is an upcoming grant deadline that's coming. I hope that colleague will be able to help with that as well. And let's see, a bud, something I'm looking forward to this summer is, boy, time with my family. During the school year, family's always going a million different directions. And so hoping to consolidate some of that and spend time with my family.
Great. Anybody else want to share theirs? You can come off mic. I see Megan put in the chat, Rose is progress on summer series planning. Thorn is technical issues. I feel you there, Megan. And the bud is gardening. Absolutely, literally and figuratively. So all good things. Penny, Dr.
Oh,
Gregory.
yes. Hello. First of all, hello, everybody. And thank you, Lucy, for doing this. You're an amazing rock star. I love you so much. My rose is that, did this just happen this week, Lucy, or am I tripping? Did we have our SPDIG kickoff this week?
Yes, we did.
Feels like yesterday and a year ago all at once. But this was my first time doing a SPDIG, launching a SPDIG in Indiana. Our SPDIG is centered around 50 principals coming into a cohort together for the next couple of years. And that kicked off this week with orientation, and it was amazing. Thanks to my wonderful, wonderful team here at the Center on Education and Lifelong Learning here in Indiana. The thorn is my grandpup is shedding very badly. So if anyone has any tips for that, let me know, because I'm covered in hair and this is new for me. I didn't ask for this dog, but he's here. I love him and he's shedding. And then also I turned 50. I look forward to this in just, I think, 10 days. I'll be 50 years old, and I thank God for more life and more learning. So there you go.
Thank you. That's great. It looks like somebody said fish oil. I'm guessing that is an advice piece for the dog.
Yeah, that was for the dog. Give your dog fish oil.
Great, great, great. Okay, thanks everybody. Let me see here. Okay, so where we are, as I said, we're the Center on Education and Lifelong Learning here at IU. We're part of the Indiana Institute on Disability and Community, which spans the lifespan of folks with disability and their community and their family for support. CEL is the school age center, so we're mostly working in school settings, mostly ages 5 through 22, and that's what we do here. I wanted to make sure you knew who we were. The SPDIG, as Penny said, we have this school leadership initiative. We have something called the ASCELI team. That is the Aspiring Special Ed Leadership Initiative or Institute, and that's a one-year program. So really, we're building capacity across the state for school leaders to lead with inclusive practices, neuro-affirming practices, universal design practices, so we can get better outcomes for our students with disabilities. We also have two other main activities for this grant, which is paying tuition for folks to add their Director of Exceptional Needs license to build capacity across the state in terms of being a special ed director. And then, you know, per Jennifer's presentation earlier, obviously family engagement resources. And we're kind of getting excited about person-centered IEP resources and then supporting our principals to develop special ed parent advisory councils. So that's our SPDIG in a nutshell. There's our contact information, which you're more than welcome to contact us. And also to mention, Dr. Nancy Holsapple is also our co-director. She is the State Director of Special Ed in Indiana. So today we're going to talk through the two tools, Dissemination Workbook and Engaging Critical Perspectives. And we're going to talk about the similarities and differences, how we can strategically integrate them, and the benefits of using both tools. Dr. Gregory said she's going to monitor the chat, so if there are any burning questions, you can put it in the chat and Penny can jump in. So you know the purpose of the Dissemination Workbook is to scale up and sustain what works. It's about establishing that clear brand value so that we can move collaborators, move partners, move stakeholders, whatever you want to call them, from awareness to advocacy. Right? I think of it as this picture. It's, you know, like it's this bright, clear message. It's the goal we're heading toward. And the Dissemination Workbook's purpose is to help get us there. The CSEP guidance for engaging critical perspectives, the purpose is a little different. It's about cultivating deep learning and ongoing improvement by leveraging diverse expertise. So I think of this one more as leverage for the effort we're putting into the grant and our partnerships. This helps us leverage that work so that we can carry a bigger load across the state. The tool processes, I'm sure you're familiar with. You've got your 6 steps in the Dissemination Workbook, and you've got 4 steps in the Engaging Critical Perspectives guide, and that's more explicitly equity-centered. Okay, so they have the processes. What I found is that I think you'll get a big bang for your buck if you zigzag between these steps, and I'm going to walk us through that. If you have your dissemination workbook out, you can turn to page 22. So this is the hourglass framework. This helps you engage stakeholders at different stages. This ensures sustained interaction at the right intensity. It helps you identify who the stakeholders are, helps you think through that. And this framework comes into play in that step 2, which is the stakeholder analysis piece of the dissemination workbook. So we're going to have a breakout group now, and John has set these up, and we'll have about 4 minutes, and I'm going to copy and paste the prompt into the chat. But here's the chat, here's the prompt. Consider your current SPDIG. What stakeholders would you identify in each row? And maybe you're thinking about who's been responsible for engaging these folks at these different levels. And when we come back together after we're just going to do 4 minutes in the breakout group. We're going to come back together, and maybe if one of you could volunteer to share gaps you may have found within your hourglass framework. Okay.
Real quick question, Lucy
Yeah.
and John. Is this slide available to them to have in the breakout?
We can leave it up if it does that.
Well, they
would that-
won't be able to see it, but if it's on the events page, or if you can copy just that slide and put the image into the agenda.
I just put the image in the chat,
great.
Jennifer.
The chat, I mean, yeah, good.
Hopefully people can maybe copy that and put it on a Word document and take it with them. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms. It'll be quick, and we'll come back at 35 past the top of the hour.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope it was a fruitful conversation. Lucy, the microphone's yours.
Thank you. All right. Would anybody like to share some gaps you may have found in your hourglass, and maybe think about, share with us maybe why that might be? You can just come off mic and start talking. That's okay. I'm sure you had fruitful discussions. I know it felt like less than 4 minutes. It might have been.
I was thinking about the time. Yeah, what I really want to do is take this graphic and spend some more time with it because I haven't gotten to that point yet. But I think gaps. I think in Nebraska we have a lot of different moving parts. From a state standpoint, from a district standpoint, our educational service units, where we're trying to collaborate with them because they have farther reach for districts. I would say gaps main cause is just like life, lots of initiatives, lots of everybody thinking everything else is priority, that kind of thing. How do we come together and really start to think about simplifying the work and really connecting the work as well? So I think that's obviously a key thing for us, but yes, the 4 minutes went extremely fast, but thank you.
Yes, yes, good. Okay. Any other thoughts on this one that you want to share? That's fine.
Lucy.
Yes, go ahead, Jenny.
From Montana. Our group, as we were looking through this very quickly, was comprised of 3 people from small population states. And we all talked about the fact that when we're looking at doing all of these things, there are only 2 of us who really work on the SPDIG in each of our states. And so we felt like we're responsible for all of these things, except maybe the advocacy piece, which our PTIs will be responsible for. So I know we're supposed to share the burden a little bit, and of course we can do a better job, but we did talk about we're light on personnel resources to get all of this stuff done. So it's something we'll need to be creative about.
That's great. And actually, that brings us right to the next slide, which is let's move into the engaging critical perspectives piece, where their sort of version of the hourglass framework is this levels of engagement. This is on page 3 of the Engaging Critical Perspectives Guide. I like this one kind of to your point. Okay, well, what takes the most effort? It's co-creation. The further you go up the levels of engagement, it takes more effort. but it also takes the fewest people. So maybe this might be something for those small states who have, as you mentioned, 2 people working on the SPDIG or something like that. How can we, make sure that we're engaging in activities that get us pretty far down the road of engagement with partners or collaborators that doesn't take as many people. Obviously it doesn't mean that you don't need to have a lot of people who are informed, right? The lowest level here, but when you're stretched, maybe this kind of thinking about your engagement in this way might help support you a little bit more, support your work. I think we're going to skip the breakout group here. I was going to give you 2 minutes. No, just kidding. Then everybody would have been like, what? It's not enough time either. But I'm wondering about the co-creation piece. Maybe just put in the chat and I'll kind of read what comes out in the chat. Where, like how the co-creation happened. Did you have a large team writing the grant, coming up with the idea, or were you, was it a small group of people? So let's think about this. Highest level takes the most effort. It says those with critical perspective take the lead in making decisions. Where are you at on that? Do you feel like you had enough input in your co-creation level? You can put that in the chat. And this is definitely Monday morning quarterbacking, right? But we can learn for the next FDIG, should we have engaged more critical perspectives in the development, in the co-creation? Georgia saying it's just a few people. Rebecca from Georgia. I'll speak for Indiana while you guys are typing. We definitely engaged with school districts and school leaders and Dr. Holsapple at the state, our parent training and information center folks, our registered apprentice leaders in the state to meet some of our goals. So I'm sure there's a variety of answers. I just wanted to get you thinking about that piece. So let's see here. I'm going to keep moving us forward. We're not going to do a breakout. So why do we want to be strategic about our integration of these 2 tools? Well, it's for holistic engagement, right? So we think about first the context for implementation, and that kind of draws us into steps 1 and 2 of the engaging critical perspectives process. This is where we're finding gaps in demographics, and we are finding the gaps also in issue-based expert voices. This is asking the question, do we have the right people at the table to co-create this grant? It also ensures intervention and context fit. So we need to do the ECP steps 1 and 2, and then go to the dissemination workbook step 1, which is the dissemination goals. That's my opinion. So I'll fly back and forth here so you can see. So step 1 and 2 on the right of the engaging critical perspectives tool. And then we're going back to the developing dissemination goals in the dissemination workbook. Then we're moving into deep engagement for program fidelity. We go into step 3 of engaging critical perspectives, which is where we're questioning our core assumptions, making sure that they are correct and that our program is going to fit the needs of the community or the folks who are receiving the intervention. So then, as you can see, that's moving into step 3. We're analyzing the barriers and facilitators, right? Then we continue on for this holistic engagement. We want to align and frame our values. So that brings us to dissemination workbook step 3, that brand value proposition. This is where we are figuring out what our collaborators' pains are and where they want to see gains, right? And we're putting that into the core message, getting ready to share that message out, right? And that's where we get into step 4, 5, and 6 in the dissemination workbook. We're moving into the content calendar. We're seeking various channels. I saw some folks had questions about dissemination channels, like maybe could AI help identify those, I think. And then also we move into the engaging critical perspective, step 4, and that's the engagement plan, the action plan. So this is where we're moving more into nuts and bolts. Steps 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then on the dissemination workbook, and then step 4 in the plan. So when you put it all together, this is kind of what it looks like. This is what the zigzag looks like. You can see that I don't have a line between ECP step 2 and the dissemination workbook step 2. They blend pretty well together. The stakeholder analysis, the hourglass framework, and the mapping our levels of engagement with the engaging critical perspectives piece. So what are the primary benefits to using these together? What we think is that it'll create a stronger intervention and context fit. This increases fidelity. We're responding to local needs. We're questioning our assumptions about who our intervention will help and what they need. This operationalizes equity. So it's structured engagement, right? Over symbolic participation, and this prevents tokenism. I also recommend the equity literacy framework. Some of you may be familiar with those. It's from the Equity Literacy Institute, and I have a link to that in the references page on this website. But that ELI also gives us really solid action steps to take to operationalize equity. And then I think if you combine these tools, you're going to sustain success. And this can protect your intervention during leadership or funding shifts, which never happens, right? So those are the reasons why I suggest using these together. If you have any questions, I think we have about 2 minutes, I think. If you have any questions, here's our context, but I wanted to point out, here's the references. You can get the links there. And then you can always connect with us at the SPDIG and at CEL through these links as well. So if there are any questions, I'll stop share and feel free to come off mic. Yeah, Veronica. Oh, are you applauding? Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Veronica is an amazing cheerleader, by the way, not in the like actual on the field sense, but in the field. I just got to see her cheerleading some of her districts today. It was great.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Lucy. This is some deep thought that I feel like I'm going to have to continue to get into, but I love that you tangled with it for us. So
Sure.
Thank you for doing that. And I did want to make one, this is not to what you were, I mean, it is to what you're saying, speaking to that, but it is about the conversation that went on. Just a reminder, everyone, I did write a SPDIG application before I came to the federal level, obviously, when I was in SEA. And I get the time crunch and everything else, and it is hard to get your partners. I do think it's worth it. I personally only had 2 weeks to write it, and I did reach out to a ton of partners, and but you don't have to be in that time crunch. You could actually work with people prior to the notice going out, because IDEA where this SPDIG is taken from, it remains the same, right? So you always have to do that use of funds section. You have to choose at least one thing from the professional development and at least one thing from other activities. I know this year the residency teacher apprenticeship programs were added on, but it doesn't mean you're not doing that other work, right? It's still required. So you could be having conversations right now. You could be talking about data. You could be learning the strengths of your PTI or the university you're going to work with. And I recommend it. So please be thinking about how you can have those conversations, how you can do that planning so that you're not in that crunch time. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. I get it, but if you can. And Veronica, do you have your hand up? Okay.
I do, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I thank you so much. So we are just wrapping up, the final drafts of the new SPDIG, and yes, it has the apprenticeship pieces on it. And I would even love to take what you've shown us and go back to our narrative and all of our pieces and just we're about ready to submit, but like double check, just like everything is in order. And because this was my first time participating in the SPDIG writing process, yeah, it really is fast and furious and things are flying and you know, you think you have a narrative, but wait, we have to edit it this and like you like things are constantly changing. So I really appreciate you sharing this because it could help organize something that just can seem so frantic at times, not all the time, but it could really help hold it in a place. I kept saying to my colleagues, how do we hold this? And this is exactly how we can hold it. So I appreciate you sharing that. So thank you so much for doing all the hard work for us.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Veronica. Okay, well, we have yet another fantastic colleague of ours who's always willing to share and who does help with the new to SPDIG grantees or the new SPDIG grantees. Started doing a community of practice with John while we were on furlough. So Alexa, thank you for that. She's also been successful at being part of the Comprehensive Literacy State Development work in her state. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome her to the stage. She's going to share how she uses AI, and then she's going to talk about MTSS at the state level, how you align, how you work together, how you collaborate, as well as connecting your conference events with your ongoing training and coaching. So loops that link. Did you use AI for that title, Alexa?
I did not.
You're just naturally brilliant.
Probably a disappointing answer to the AI is that I don't use it. I use it very infrequently when I don't want to look for addresses for schools, or when I can't remember a song that's stuck in my head. But other than that, I really do not use it that often. But something that has been going on in my family recently is I have a 3-year-old son who is alert, awake, ready for life. And he is experiencing summer really for the first time, you know, as a sentient human. And I'm curious to know, what were some of the things that made your summer magical? That would be really fun for us to do this summer. We're big bubble people. We love bubbles.
So you're asking about for 3-year-olds specifically, right? Okay, just want to make sure.
Just like you as a child, could be any
good memories.
Good memories, things that made summer feel like summer for you. We don't have very many fireflies. I love fireflies. My childhood was actually in North Carolina, so we had endless fireflies. We'd put, grass and stuff in the jar and have it light up your whole room. Well, lovely. These are so fun. So lovely. Honestly, if I wasn't a redhead, I would play outside. But in Oklahoma, we're at 11 UV at every moment, and I think it's like 97 as a low. So the outside experience is not for us. Yes, your human child. Perfect. Well, I'm really excited to talk about Loops That Link because I think that it's a lot more difficult to get them started and have them consistent than maybe we anticipate in the moment. And I think there's reasonable experience of frustration when you just want the loop to link and it doesn't, or you want the connection to be there and it feels like you're constantly going uphill. So we have, I'm actually going to start with the MTSS conferencing and how we integrate our conference experience with ongoing professional learning. So as part of our SPDIG, we actually implement lots of different types of specific training and specific coaching opportunities that our participants engage with. So the training that we provide includes our MTSS conferences. We do one in the winter, one in the summer. We developed modules or professional learning asynchronous learning sessions. Those happen every month except for summer. Paired with those are communities of practice that happen virtually. And then we offer two types of data retreats, a system level data retreat and a student level data retreat. The student level data retreat is essentially DBI. When we have our teams engaged with the SPDIG, they receive all of those training options and the coaching in addition. They receive this district system coaching where they meet virtually once and then in person the second time. So they have 2 times a month where they're consistently reaching out. And then separate project, but very similar, early career coaching, they receive support once a week. So these pieces are really important just for context to know why we have these different pieces, but it's also helpful to know when those pieces occur throughout the school year. So I made this wild timeline. I'm a very visual thinker, but I don't know if everyone thinks visually the way I do. So bear with my explanation here. Every single one of these instances from August to May is an instance in which we provide LEA system level coaching. So first one's virtual, the second one's in person. And so they have several instances of consistent, consistent feedback. Simultaneously, the district personnel are participating in these modules, these asynchronous opportunities, and that's really the connection point for those virtual connections. The team will complete the module and then check in with their facilitator to support any understanding with the module. So it's really improved our module completion. It's really improved our coaching engagement because there's a sequence of 3 things that really will occur at the same time. Then to support those modules, we do a community of practice. Those are typically towards the end of the month. So if you're thinking you start at the beginning of the month with your module, check in with your coach, in-person opportunity, and then you have your community of practice. Community of practice are typically provided by external presenters. So it's either an expert in the field, somebody from Oklahoma who's already doing this, or many of our TA partners that support us. We have our winter and summer conference where we intentionally stagger that every 6 months. We try to make sure that those are fiscally bound so that lots of people can use up any monies that they have in different buckets. And then our system data retreats and student data retreats are also strategically placed as well. We do offer LEA onboarding in the July, and that really has improved our data collection. It's not really a part of the sequence per se, but it is something that's really helpful for us to make the next steps. So that's what happens for those who are coached. But for the non-coached districts, those in the state that just participate, they can participate in the modules the same way. They can participate in the communities of practice the same way. They can participate in the winter and summer conference and the student and system level data retreats. So a lot of our materials, because they're so available for our state just widespread, we really want to make sure that they're very intentionally planned. This gives us insight into how we're moving systemically as a state. It gives us insight into how our particular coaching model is improving or adjusting the outcomes from the state. And honestly, it gives us a better sample size of what issues we feel like are happening from our small sample size of coach districts, but then we can take it to a much larger scale of, we have 547 districts in the state. So our 8 really aren't a very notable sample size for determining what areas we can improve on for state alignment. So we utilize each of these pieces of data and each of these efforts to specifically have connection between each of the elements. So that LEA onboarding, we provide our needs assessment that we use for our APR baseline, and we support them with connecting with the modules and scheduling. For our winter and summer conference, we offer a needs assessment. We collect state MTSS feedback of here's what kinds of things I'm looking for, here's what kinds of supports I still need. And that is directly tied to our phased implementation of MTSS within the state. Our modules help to support initial understanding. So if we have many schools that say, I don't really know where to start, we guide them towards those. Our system coaching with virtual supports and our in-person session supports are really targeted towards school needs. So a lot of those materials that our coaches and our teams have made, we can really represent them and utilize them in other efforts as well. And then our system data retreat is tier 1 data analysis. We really support schools in looking for patterns, trends, closing their tier 1 gaps. And student data retreat is our DDI. And then there's communities in practice are the expert in the field. Now, all of these pieces really rely on our long-term strategic plan. So in Oklahoma, we are making a long-term strategic plan to effectively no longer allow traditional discrepancy model or patterns of strength and weaknesses in the state. So we've put a lot of effort into a 7-year plan to get from most of our districts, 543 of them, doing traditional discrepancy and making our way towards RTI specifically. We recognize that MTSS and RTI have nuances, but many of our schools are not implementing either with fidelity, and they are going to have a significant issue when 2032 arrives, and they're expected to have a lot of these infrastructural pieces. So we started by phasing our implementation with discovery, inquiry, and action. 2 years in discovery, 2 years in inquiry, 4 years in action. So we're currently in an inquiry year. So we're trying to decide the things that people are asking questions about and answering those inquiry questions. So some of those things that's on our phased plan is we actually don't have screening tools or progress monitoring tools that are easy for schools to select and utilize for K-12. And that's an area of need. So that's an area that we're working to expand. Each of these pieces that are on this phased plan directly tie to something that we've provided in professional learning. So we have done several things with our IHE recruitments and how they interact and participate in our conferences. We encourage our data collection improvements and have really combined that information into our data retreats. We recognized that we needed to start training teachers on effective intervention provision and implementation. So DBI started to become a more critical need in professional learning. All of these components really are intentional as part of our statewide phased implementation. Then we use all of the data from all of these efforts to really make the next steps. So our needs assessment, we use that for baseline implementation, and we use it to audit agency-wide areas of improvement. If we recognize we have a lot of schools that are scoring quite low in this section, we prioritize that for our conference. For example, this summer conference is heavily favoring secondary MTSS implementation because that's an area of need. We don't have lots of resources currently, and we don't have a lot of demonstration sites or districts that are doing it really well. So that gives us a great direction for conference programming. The winter conference 2 years ago was very focused on data because we recognized that we had a lot of schools that really didn't have great data procedures. They weren't holding data meetings, they weren't looking at data. So we really used the needs assessment as our tool to decide the direction for our conference planning. The modules help us with proficiency of understanding. So that gives us information about what we need to change in the modules or what kinds of guidance documents we need. We take attendance for the communities of practice and the conferences to really see who has access to MTSS. And then we send out really fun postcards to those who haven't attended. And then trying to increase the scope and regional access to these opportunities. Our system coaching, we calculate and look at the proficiency of their implementation by continuing to do that needs assessment at regular intervals. And then we collect data from our data retreats based on their content understanding and also based on their implementation. So they indicate if they want continued support, and we provide that continued support with follow-up emails or short videos to support them in determining whether or not they made their action plan. So all of these things have taken lots and lots of time to build, and I'm curious to know how you integrate these opportunities, your training and coaching opportunities, to make the largest impact, whatever that looks like now. And then what data is informing those pieces of alignment between these two elements. So we'll be in a breakout group for about 6 minutes, and then we'll come back together.
Thanks, Alexa. So I went ahead and copy pasted a screenshot of your slide and your questions. People can grab that out of the chat. The breakout room should be open, so feel free to join those. And we'll come back in 6 minutes.
Of course. Well, in the chat or unmute, anything to share from your breakout group.
I'll share. So I'm from Virginia and I'm an evaluator. So like I said, like I told the people in my group, our implementers could definitely explain this a lot more eloquently than I am. But we actually have our coaches write coaching plans for the districts they support each year, and they use data in their coaching plans to determine what coaching areas of focus. And that usually helps determine a little bit about what professional learning events they might attend. And also the supportive coaching that will help them get to where they, what their SMART goal is for the district. Also, our coaches support districts in the actual training. So like they attend with their districts so that they are working with them on the activity, supporting them through the activities, but also then are able to help support them afterwards. And then when our schools go to trainings, it is recommended that district personnel who will be supporting them should also go to those trainings with them for the same reasoning. So then they can help support them on their future work based off of that training. Does that help?
That's awesome. Yeah. I like that. We do coaching plans as well. Those are based on a lot of the data we shared. And then we have a team of 5, and that we do it all. Coaching, training. Anybody else? Well, as we've been working with this, we've been also working on continuing our agency feedback loop. So one of our goals is to really improve the resources and the tools that we have with our agency. So this statewide effort has really been a statewide effort. Took some time to get it off the ground, took some time to make it consistent. Actually recently came across a term called social loafing, which I think is a really fancy term for when you're in a group and the group really doesn't take any ownership for specific pieces from the group because the group is just too large. And so we really needed a large group to represent our agency. But the group was so large that it was very easy for participants to kind of not feel valued and not prioritize it. So one of our really easy ways to support this effort was we did subgroups, and in those subgroups they had a maximum of 5 people to write our introductory guide. That really brought everyone to the table. We brought everyone into this meeting. So now we are able to have agency directors, program managers, and we talk about our monthly areas for improvement, specifically addressed to the state systems fidelity inventory. We do that every April. Part of this process really determined that we collect a lot of information separately. We don't really have a method to support each other when there's an issue that's outside of our scope. So we have a lot of field employees. We have about 25 literacy specialists at our field. We have our team, and then we have special education or school support. So approximately 50 employees in total, where people are going out into schools and they're seeing things and they're supporting schools, educators, teachers, administrators, and we don't have a way to know when each other is having these same similar issues, or when things are working, but maybe someone's not having that same success. So we developed a concerns form, which allows for any field employee to submit a concern. And these concerns can be quite small. I'm really having a hard time getting this administrator to email me back. Or it could be quite large. I really believe that this is a systemic special education concern. And so these concerns are really critical to help us to know if there's like 9 concerns for a specific district and we're all working with that district, we need to all loop in on the same page. We need to all have the same understanding of what supports are being provided and where some of the barriers are kind of occurring. And then we conduct audits of what interventions we have and what areas we still need to improve. So our concern submission form is pretty basic. They indicate the date, the district, the site, if they have emails of who they've been reaching out to, who's the person who submitted this, if they know if they're a part of any programs or if they know of anything that they're a part of, and then they write out the description of the concern. The concerns that they select are like a drop-down list, and we can update and edit those at any time. They may have documents or evidence, but honestly, I don't think anyone's updated that so far. And then we can review the data, which everyone loves reviewing the data, because it gives a really valid indication of, we have a lot of schools that are in need of some tier 3 supports. Coaching from a field employee is not enough. They need something more than coaching. We have 60 districts that are 60 concerns. We can indicate, we started in December, so you can see that we have a lot in December. But then you can see which months maybe are more common. It will pick up again in August, September, October as we go out into the field. And then we can also see, some of the resources that are most assigned. So the top 3 resources are what's required when they are a designated school. But then we can also see, which things are making the most impact. And the ESIP, the conference, we've got co-teaching modules. We have lots of different supports that we can then track and see which things are being used most often. Our team, or the MTSS team, can also upload new interventions. So if they have new tools or new resources, they can upload them as well in a form. And that helps us to know what audited materials we have and to what extent our materials are being provided. So when we look at the data there, we can see that the majority of our resources are a digital resource or something that's required. And that's not really supportive of so significant tier 3 needs. We really need to expand our coaching ability because we don't have that as a large enough chunk for what our concern data is really showing. We also can see, what types of concerns are the most prevalent. Special education, assessment, academics, and we can see what grade bands our interventions are mostly suited for. As you would expect, our grade bands are mostly suited for those that have legislative requirements. So a lot of our elementary and secondary, we have a lot of resources for graduation, or we have a Strong Readers Act, which is intervention requirements for literacy. So you can tell that there's a lot of information that is really specific to specific grade bands. So we were able to take all of this data and submit letters of concern to the superintendent's cabinet to say, these are some districts that we have significant concern that students are not making significant outcomes. Here's all the supports that they're receiving. And we are ready for some discussion of next steps. It's part of that we decided we needed to have a phased implementation for training and professional supports that are not making adequate progress. We need to combine our efforts to be able to really target those schools and target specific coaching and opportunities to those specific schools. We were also able to recommend additional compliance measures for those who are at risk of non-compliance. So as part of our special education cyclical monitoring, we can adjust those cohorts based on special education concerns. And it also gives us an opportunity to align program planning to real-time statewide implementation, because we can use this data to inform these concerns about how we're utilizing these participants. So it helped our external partnerships because we have data that we can indicate for our IHEs, our community partnerships, where we can say, we don't have the capacity to do these types of things, but these areas would be really beneficial if you would take on these types of projects. It's also validated continued state funding for those field positions. So that initiative with our 25 heroes, our literacy specialists, was due to end, but because we were able to collect this data and represent the significant need and how our process would be drastically cut if we didn't have those positions, they were able to fund us 18 more positions. It also gives us insight into new grant activities and in areas for collaboration that we maybe wouldn't have had before, because now we can see where some of these concerns and complaints were coming from, and we didn't have somebody from that team who could represent that. So we'll do maybe like a 4-minute breakout group, and I just am curious, or you can put it in the chat. Maybe we don't need to do a breakout group. We can just go in the chat. How does this agency alignment look in your context? And then what efforts would improve the alignment and feedback loops? Many of our SPDIGs don't have a setup that's very similar to this. So how would this look for you?
Thanks, Alexa. And I'll just highlight what you just said. We're not going to do a breakout group, but rather go ahead and put your thoughts about this in the chat. Or, of course, we always welcome people unmuting their microphones and vocally sharing as well.
This is Annette in Montana. I think, like a lot of you, sometimes, we start out with great intentions on our agency alignment, and we do have a lot of really good places. But at one of our recent collaborative meetings with an external partner group, we discovered that, oh my gosh, hey, why didn't we think of this in alignment? And so internally for our group, Jenny and I are a unit, I guess is the appropriate term. We've decided that for our unit, a collaborative goal for us to work on is to work on, being more collaborative with each other and across the agency. And that will require that we be the ones to reach out to our colleagues across the agency and not always just think, well, they'll catch me when they can.
I think that's a great point. It was a real effort for us to continuously make it a priority for participants to show up to the meeting. And we had to make it worth their time. And making it worth their time was they were either creating something, generating something, or we were helping to solve problems that they were in real life experiencing. And I'm sure we've all had the moment where, you're wandering around the office and you're all saying that district's name because they're everywhere.
Hi, I apologize. I just had a quick question for you. That's probably not the best thing for what we're supposed to be doing here, but I was kind of curious about,
Sure.
you referenced the state systems fidelity inventory. I was just kind of curious, we utilize that measure as well. And I was just kind of curious of your experiences with that.
Yeah, I would say the first couple years it was really tricky because it's quite heavy. It's very jargon heavy, and it's difficult when you have a lot of turnover from year to year because you're not really building understanding of those elements. It feels like when we were just starting, it was really difficult to get some understanding, even to just answer the questions really well. And then once you answer the questions really well and you get the hang of it, then you realize, we had definitely overinflated our scores the last two times because now we actually know what the answers should have been, and we weren't doing that before. So I think that now we have a better understanding. I also have made it on a Google form, and everyone answers independently first, and then we come back together because otherwise we were having like a single responder, or like people would say, I don't know the answer to this. So now they have to give a rating, whether or not they have an understanding, because that's more accurate to what they're actually experiencing. And if you don't know that we're doing something, we're not doing a good enough job of communicating what it is that we're doing. So I think that's really improved.
Can I just add in there, Alexa, too? That's a really good point about the individual things. A lot of times we don't want tons and tons of data from districts, like from individuals. It's too hard to tease out a lot of stuff. But in certain aspects, we have found that when we have all the individuals, for example, on the district MTSS team, fill out a survey, we get wildly different responses depending on who it is. A superintendent will say, oh, we don't have this in place at all. But then the MTSS coach will say, oh, yeah, this is totally a 5. We absolutely have this in place. They don't even know a lot of times what's going on in their own districts because their communication and their feedback loops are not great. So I love the every individual on the team fill this out approach.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's funny too. It's like, the same thing we'll see at a building level using like a tiered fidelity inventory all the way up to the SSFI is the more you know, the lower your score, and how it just keeps, you know what I mean? Which is good. I mean, it's a good thing, but recognizing and talking to teams about how, hey, that's okay. That's
Right.
kind of the point. And I think obviously the point of just improvement over just, a random 2 or a random whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate that input.
Sure. Yeah, we definitely did it in like a long meeting where everyone had a voice. And it was too long of a meeting. We all kind of lost our minds. But thank you so much for your attention, and please feel free to reach out. I will hopefully see you all in August in person.
Mm-hmm. And then in October again. Well, actually, we won't see you in October, which is very
No,
sad,
probably
but
not.
happy at the same time. All right. Okay, great. Thank you, John, for your great facilitation. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Lucy, and for the teams that support them. It was great to see you all. We appreciate how open and generous all of you continue to be for SIG Network. So have a great afternoon and a good beginning of your summers.